Question: was Prime Minister the Honourable Andrew Holness of Jamaica's speech inappropriate and misplaced? Well, recently, the Honourable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, gave a speech to the United Nations General Assembly in New York, where he said that illegal guns usually flow into the hands of the poor, marginalized youths in developing countries like Jamaica. But my question is, if the marginalized youths are poor and they cannot afford a legal gun, which for them may be the only way out of poverty and provides a sense of power, then how do we expect this issue of murder wave and reducing gun, how do we expect to solve that issue without first dealing with their sense of powerlessness and dealing with their poverty? Because listen up. According to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, says that illegal guns usually flow into the hands of the poor, marginalized youth in developing countries like Jamaica. I mean, that is an observation that has been corroborated through study that shows the relationship between the gun,
yes,
and the illegal use of it in poor, marginalized communities, not just in Jamaica, but in Black and brown communities all over the US and all over the world. And the thing is, they are taken advantage of in many senses, the poor, marginalized youths.
Well, there are a lot of ways that they can go about fixing this problem. It's just, are they going to get the signature to, go through with this law?
Well, it's not a law. He's at the United Nations making a request. In fact, I have the story here for you, which I will share, which I got from the Gleaner, dated Monday, September 26, 2022. And it was written by Lester Hines, is a Gleaner writer, and it was published on September 24, 2022. And the article entitles Holness enlists United Nations help to stem influx of illegal guns murder wave. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has called for an international war on guns to end the influx of illegal weapons and epidemic of murders in Jamaica. In the same way that a war on drugs is being prosecuted, in which we have been faithful partners in policing what comes through our waters or leaves our shores, there now needs to be a war on guns. Holness pleaded as he addressed the 77th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York on Thursday. Earlier I had made a point as it relates to this point. He said, in the same way that a war on drugs is being prosecuted, in which we have been faithful partners in policing what comes through our waters or leaves our shores, there now needs to be war on guns. He goes on to say that in the same way there is concern about illegal guns on the streets of the rich countries, there must be concern about guns on the streets of developing countries like Jamaica. And I'm going to pause here because that's nonsensical. I mean, this particular statement here, I mean, it's absolutely frivolous and inappropriate. And first of all, I don't even know who wrote the speech for the Prime Minister, or maybe he wrote it himself. Listen to the Prime Minister of Jamaica's argument as he tries to petition the international community, the international leaders at the United Nations, as they try to petition them to engage in this war on drugs, to end the influx of illegal weapons and epidemic of murders in Jamaica. He says, in the same way there is concern about illegal drugs on the streets of the rich countries, there must be concern about guns on the streets of developing countries. How is he comparing apples with tomato? How do you impress upon somebody to do something, to come to your aid, by appealing to a particular issue which has absolutely nothing to do with your particular issue? Drugs on the streets of rich countries is different from guns on the streets on developing countries. I know he said in the same way there is concern about illegal drugs on the streets of the rich countries. First of all, he's leveling an allegation against the other UN countries, an allegation saying that there is illegal drugs on the streets of your country, and aren't you concerned about that?
Well, he's saying in the same way there is concern about illegal drugs on the streets of rich countries, and there must be concern about guns on the streets of developing countries like Jamaica. So,
well, first of all, that makes no sense, because these people, if there are concerns about illegal drugs on the streets of rich countries like here in the US, okay, we would want to first deal with that before we go and help you and deal with your gun issue.
Right, but that's the thing. I see where he's trying to get, but it's still not explaining clear enough, because you're basically saying, okay, yes, we are concerned about illegal drugs on the street and illegal guns, but you're not pointing that out about illegal drugs in Jamaica. Illegal guns in Jamaica. You already know that they import illegal drugs, and guns are a big concern everywhere. People are dying. So you making a point like nobody is supporting or helping or giving a solution to the problem in Jamaica.
First of all, the concern about the concern about illegal drugs on the streets of rich countries does not lead to there must be concern about guns on the streets of developing countries. Okay, that first of all, I don't know if that's not how you negotiate. That's one of the things you learn about negotiating or negotiation. Okay, that makes no sense. But anyway, that's not the issue. That is.
But does he go into it?
But the relationship between the two doesn't make any sense in terms of if you're trying to impress upon people, to encourage people to move to action. Rich countries, I guess he's thinking by appealing to their issues, the illegal drugs on their streets.
Right.
Okay. First of all, many rich countries, drugs is legal now. Okay. Weed is legal. Marijuana is legal.
Yeah,
they're hard to put yourself.
I do see his argument.
But anyway, that's not the issue here. I'm going somewhere with this.
Oh yeah.
I'm going somewhere, and I want you to. I'm going somewhere with this. Let me just finish the article. The article goes on to say that the propensity to resolve conflict or cope with social and mental stresses through violence requires a public health response, and Jamaica has not only engaged in global initiatives such as the Partnership to End Violence Against Children, but has also empaneled the National Commission on the Prevention of Violence to advise the government on building out an articulated public health and social services response, the Prime Minister told the gathering of world leaders. He said that the situation is being compounded by the influx of illegal and unregistered small arms into the island. Illegal and unregistered small arms into the island. Now, I'm going to stop, and I don't need to continue. If you guys want to check out the article, you can go to JamaicaGleaner.com. And this is dated Monday, September 26, 2022. And the title of the article is Holness Enlists UN Help to Stem Influx of Illegal Guns. Murder Wave. And the article was published Saturday, September 24, 2022. And at 12:07 a.m., written by Lester Hines, who's a Gleaner writer. Now, so upon seeing that article, I responded by saying, and I actually responded to this article on Facebook, Ronaldo.McKenzie, via the Gleaner Facebook thread. And I actually wrote an article and submitted it to the Gleaner in response to this article, and you can check it out. You can check it out in a few. Now, according to the Prime Minister Andrew Holness, illegal guns usually flow into the hands of the poor, marginalized youth in developing countries like Jamaica. That's what he said. But my question is, if the marginalized youths are poor and cannot afford a gun, which for them may be the only way out of poverty and for their safety, then getting illegal guns via the black market is the option for them. That is something that illegal guns are usually flow into the hands of the poor, marginalized. It usually flow into their hands because they want it. People take advantage. The rich or the have usually take advantage of the have-not. The poor utilize their poverty. Okay, so they need gun and they want it. There's a market, and they utilize the black market. If you guys have been following this show, I say to you, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Okay, people kill people. Crime and violence and the fact of the matter is, crime and violence is a problem in almost every community in the world where there are marginalized poor black people. Not just developing countries like Jamaica, but in cities like Philadelphia, Atlanta, LA, Detroit, Chicago, London, etc. Everywhere. And furthermore, please remember that sometime in the 1980s and the early 1990s, there was what is known as a guns for drug trade. A guns for drug trade. An arrangement between the dons of Haiti and Jamaica, where Haiti provided the locals, the criminal operatives in Jamaica, the community area leaders, provided them with guns, and in turn they got drugs from Jamaica, from the Jamaican drug kingpins. So this was not so the issue of guns coming in the country and you wanting to stem the tide of crime. You have to put that into context, because you have to think about, okay, you're saying that you want us to pressure the international manufacturers, but at the same time, the local there you can look back in history, and probably even now, but look back in history in Jamaica, where guns was marijuana and other drugs was traded for guns. Guns came into the country illegally, irrespective, and it didn't come through transnational. It came through the kingpins who organized themselves, and took advantage of globalization, neoliberal globalization. So Jamaica and Haiti had. So this was this was not an international manufacturing issue. It wasn't where this particular Haiti guns for the exchange of guns between Haiti and Jamaica. This was not an international manufacturing issue where guns go into Jamaica via an international manufacturer, but via an underground channel procured by the said locals of these countries. So it's laughable and hypocritical that the Prime Minister would come out and try, either chiding or either by trying to pressure or urge the international leaders to put pressure on international manufacturers who make money by selling guns. Okay? And that's why one of the reasons why they're rich, since Prime Minister of Jamaica wants to allude to these rich countries, rich wealth. Okay? Further, another issue, the local suppliers who sell guns locally must ensure that guns have serial numbers and that they are registered locally before they are sold. It does not require the Prime Minister asking the United Nations leaders to do that. It's a local issue. His request is inappropriate at that level and needs to be discussed with local suppliers of and importers of guns on the island, suppliers of the local suppliers of guns in Jamaica, and the Jamaican government themselves, and he's the Prime Minister of Jamaica. Okay, the leader of the Jamaican government and the leader of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Okay, he needs to go back to his country and create laws to ensure that importers do not accept guns without serial numbers and proper documentation and registration. That's what he needs to do. He's coming there can I tell you what is going on in Jamaica? Who wrote this speech? Further, the answer to stemming the influx of illegal guns and murder and the murder wave occurring globally, especially in black and brown communities, lies in, and this was my response, lies in on Facebook here to this particular issue. The answer lies in reducing poverty and raising incomes and providing more opportunities. Reducing poverty, raising incomes, and providing more opportunities. However, this can only happen when Jamaica becomes more competitive and expand its capabilities, which will need short-term investment over the long term, with some sacrifices, coupled with investment in education to make every Jamaica not just literate but competitive. We need to get the diaspora more involved and become more strategic and planful with this endeavor. And by the way, I actually talk about this in my book, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance. But I actually sometime today I shared a podcast that I did some time ago. Actually, just some minutes ago, I shared via social media, posting saying that this is one of my favorite podcast episodes because Dr. Andre Isaacs, professor of the College of the Holy Cross in Massachusetts, really changed my views on COVID, science, and vaccines in a way that others couldn't. He talked about mRNA technology and the need for science literacy. Now, and I put the link to the podcast. And then I said under that, Dr. Andre is originally from Jamaica, but is now an American, but wants to give back to the country. And we invite, and I said in the post, I invite the Jamaican government to facilitate serious connections and engagement with these brilliant Jamaicans who want to give back, especially as scientists like this. And Jamaica can benefit from chemists. I talk about, you look at what happened in COVID. Jamaica was heavily dependent and reliant on drugs from overseas, on the vaccine from overseas. And they couldn't make any vaccine. They're woefully behind. Irrespective of all their endeavors. In fact, some time ago, I think it was last day, I was reading an article and Jamaica won an award. Or they got some money to expand their capabilities, research and science. But guess what? It had nothing to do with expanding their capability, providing them with furniture and so on and so forth. You know, I mean, I am telling you, but we have people like Dr. Andre Isaacs who wants to give back to Jamaica, a chemist who went to the best schools, okay, and who is working on ring cycles to make drugs better and more effective. There are many Jamaicans, there are many people who, but I think they're lazy. They are sitting down in their offices and want the diaspora to reach out to them. They are not doing the reaching out. They say, well, we create a website and check us out. No, go on social media. Create a system where you engage Jamaicans and the diaspora, because you have diaspora who are making ton-load of money, who are making significant contribution to society where they are, and Jamaica could benefit in some way to make themselves competitive, and they want to give back. And the kind of speech that the Jamaican government, that the Prime Minister should be giving, the Jamaican Prime Minister should be given to the United Nations leaders, isn't a speech, okay, begging for them to put pressure on international gun manufacturers as it relates to ensuring that they use proper documentation and the guns are registered before they are shipped overseas. Excuse me, that you got independence in 1962. Okay? You got independent. You are a sovereign country. There are some things that we go to the United Nations for, but there are other things that we don't go to them for. Okay? Implement laws. Okay, and man your ports. And invest in your people. Educate academically. That's what you need. Invest in your people. This is how China, that's how they became competitive. Okay? They are very competitive, because they're people, they invest in their people. Invest in their academics, invest in their education. Give them top-notch education that is free. Not just to make them to be able to do basic reading and writing. And that's what's happening in Jamaica. Basically, and the next thing is a lot of the crime and violence happening in these communities. It's not just a correlation between poverty, okay, but also the people's critical thinking skills, people's metacognitive skills, people's academic skills, or the ability to be able to make inferences and differences and so on, and people's consciences are more deformed, so to speak. That is part of the issue, and so we need to develop people's critical thinking. Because people cannot, say for example, there was one time we talked about conflict resolution. Developing conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is important. Or help or mediation skills, because people don't jump to violence, and so there was a need for people to teach people mediation and conflict resolution skills. Okay? That is what needs to happen. People, I'm telling you, man, this is the Neoliberal Run podcast. Thank you for listening. Walk good. And please support us. https:// anchor.fm/the neoliberal/support. And you can also subscribe for free. Send us a feedback. Share the show with your friends. Walk good. Thank you for listening to the Neoliberal Round podcast. And I just wanted to add or to drive home one more issue in relation to the question as to whether or not the Prime Minister of Jamaica's address or request was inappropriate and misplaced. I will say that the issue goes beyond going to the UN to ask leaders for help with that. There are other priorities, and we must be wise to ask for the right things. How can you ask international leaders to ensure that international manufacturers and suppliers ensure that guns are registered before they come into Jamaica? That is a local issue that speaks to local laws and protections. What Jamaica needs is funds and investments to increase Jamaica's capabilities. And that is what we should always ask for. Put your priorities where the greatest needs reside. The Neoliberal Round podcast. Walk good.